Hello, peeps. Are you prejudiced? Now, if you say no, I call bullshit. I really do, because all of us, all right, let's say, for the argument's sake of argument, almost everybody on the planet, including you, are prejudiced. Why is that? Because we have preferences. Now, there's nothing wrong with preferences, you might say, and that's true to a point. But preferences are the reason you have problems. Preferences are the reason you are prejudiced to certain people or certain places or things, right? Because if you had no preferences, what would it matter? It would never matter about anything or any situation, right? You do not realize, and I'm generalizing, you might know about this, but if you're unaware of your preferences, if you're unaware of what the preferences or where the preferences come from, that's the big one. Because this is just mass hypnosis that's going on. You think that your preferences are your own, but your preferences are as a result of where you live, your environment, and so on. And what you watch, where you go, all these things. And you don't necessarily understand the cost of what these preferences are in your life. They create everything. But what are preferences? Well, here's a preference. It is, as you know, the diamond, but it's not the diamond, of course. It's the shit around the diamond. That's what it is. It's the shit. Now you might say, well, not all my preferences are negative. Well, no, they're not. And that's where the paint comes in. Because you're imitating your diamond. And I'm not saying it's wrong, remember? I'm not saying that the paint is wrong. The stuff that you accumulate, the materialistic type things, the way the shirts you wear, or the way you build your body, or you look after your body, or the food you eat, or the whatever, right? It's not that this stuff is wrong. It's only that if you believe it is you, then it becomes a problem. Then it is taking over your life, and then you will never see the truth. And what is the truth? That you are a diamond. You are pure. You know exactly who you are. You know exactly what you want. You might say that's a preference, but you're a blank screen. You're an open vessel. It's amazing how indoctrinated we are that preferences are coming from us, our true self. They are almost never, ever coming from our true selves. Never. I read, I met the guy, Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., and he was talking about his book, and I read the book, and I highly recommend that you read this book. It's called The 5 Levels of Attachment. And he spoke about lotus flowers. So you imagine the five fingers as the leaves of the lotus flower, right? And he says when the lotus flower is open, this is the equivalent. Imagine, and he gave a great story, an analogy, if you like. He says, imagine soccer. I'll say soccer. I'd say football in England, but it's soccer, right? And imagine, say you're watching some kids, or it's a friend's kids soccer game, right? And there's no attachment to it whatsoever. You're not interested in who wins or who loses. You're just watching a game, and it's quite fun. It's just fun to watch them, and you're more noticing how an individual player might play really well. And oh, that was great. Or oh, they scored that goal. That was incredible. And it doesn't matter if it's against you or for you, right? There's no attachment to it. And then it closes up a little bit. Now, let's say you're going to a game where, well, I said it was a friend's kids, but let's say the first one you didn't know anybody, but the second one, it's maybe your kid's game or it's a friend's kid's game. So you've got a little bit, you really want this team to win, but again, it's just little kids, so it doesn't really matter. It's not that big a deal. So it's a little close now. You're watching the game, but you're more in preference to this team winning or, the kid doing much better sort of thing. Then the next one, it closes up a little bit more. The third one is, let's say it's your team and you're an avid supporter and you love this team, right? And you're like, yeah, come on. And you're watching the team. Actually, Andy's parents, they are crazy Eagles fans. And it's American football, but they're absolute. They were season ticket holders. They went to the Super Bowl. They love the Eagles. Go Birds. and they're really passionate about it. So they have a big, hold on that team. Now, the next level is when they're absolutely adamant that this team is the best of all, and this is pretty much Andy's parents. And if you're supporting another team, what the hell's wrong with you? How could you support another team? Our team is the best team. You can't be, oh, we don't like the Cowboys. And my cousin's a Cowboys fan, so that goes really well. But we don't like the Cowboys. Oh, the Cowboys, they're terrible, right? And it gets closer, and now you're really engaged in this. It's like, no, this team is the best. And if they lose, you're upset. You're like, Andy's parents, they're like miserable for the rest of the day if their team loses, It's like they're really upset about it. Now the final one, when it comes to here, is absolute engagement. This is where you will die for your team. Your team is it. I belong to this. This is more like gangs, gang situations. And I mean, it can be sports as well, where people are so obsessed, they would literally kill you. They would fight to the death to honor their team, That's absolute attachment. And you can imagine that that's pretty prejudiced and pretty crazy. How do we go about politics? Our country versus other countries. Think about those levels of attachment. How much we are hypnotized and we believe in that sort of thing. Imagine how much that puts in your life. And you might think it's a good thing, but start looking at that. I'm telling you, it starts to open up your life a little bit more when you start to understand what's going on. And it's this stuff. When we get rid of this stuff, we open ourselves up. We're not thinking like we've been told to think. We're starting to think for ourselves. Fresh thinking is coming up. You've probably or almost never had a fresh thought in your life. I know I apologize if that sounds insulting. I don't mean it to be. It's just that we're so full of regurgitated thoughts that we don't get a chance to have a fresh thought, or very, very, very rarely. And myself included, I'm not pointing fingers. I was there too, obviously. I used to often, especially in my business groups and so on, I used to use this analogy. And what I would do is on a whiteboard, I would draw a little dot. Notice it's a brown dot. So there's a dot, okay? Little brown dot. Now imagine this is the problem. So you can imagine in business, this is a big deal. You've got a big problem in business, right? That's the problem. Okay. So, let me take this out of the way. That's the problem. What's not the problem? Absolutely everything else. So can you imagine how debilitating it is to have that preference of looking at the problem and not looking at absolutely everything else as a possible solution, right? We are completely locked in when we've got these preferences, these prejudices. We are locked into this way of thinking, and this is the only way of thinking. It locks us in, and there's a good reason for that, because then we never see our own potential. We never understand our own potential. So if that's the problem, everything else is not the problem. What if we just started to focus on this beautiful, spacious, amazing, imagine that as your mind. Imagine that. Space. Now you'll have dots here and there where thoughts come and go. But remember in the last video I said, Rupert Spira said, be like the station, not the passenger. Because trains, so to speak, can come and go, but they're not holding on. You know, imagine I said to you, okay, what color is this whiteboard? And don't get all technical on me and say it's eggshell white or it's white, right? it's a white color, okay? Now what if, now bear with me, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but imagine with my brown pen, I completely and utterly covered this with this brown color, right? Now again, just imagine, because otherwise I'll be here all day. So imagine this is completely covered, you cannot see any white whatsoever, all you see is brown. What color is it now? I know some of you said brown. It is not brown. It is still white. It is still white. But the brown, the limiting beliefs, the illusionary shit that we pour all over our diamond, the white, if you haven't noticed, is the diamond, right? Our beautiful open space, our full potential, our clean slate is still there. It's just covered in the brown. It's covered in the brown. You are perfectly you. You are just covered in this illusionary shit that's preventing you from seeing and being and experiencing who you are and what kind of life you want to lead. So we gotta let this shit go, right? We gotta let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. Now there was a great exercise that I learned from a lady called Christy Marie Sheldon. I've doctored it slightly. I've made it more, you know, the way I want it to be. And you can do the same. You know, any exercises I show you, you know, just tweak it to how it works for you, right? We're all individual, and yet we're all connected, which is beautiful. So Christy Marie Sheldon, she did this. She said about uncreate, delete, and de-story. Well, I changed it to be the 3D method. So we delete, decreate, and de-story. So what's that? Delete, obviously, you delete it out of your mind, you delete it out of your cells in your body, you delete it out of your memory. You decreate, because we created it. We're the ones that created it in the first place. And you de-story. So you get rid of the stories behind these limiting beliefs, because that's what's making them so powerful. When you create the story. You're pouring more and more of this brown stuff to cover who you are. The beautiful blank slate, the beautiful whiteboard. So we want to get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. Then fresh thinking comes up. Then you find out your true preference. Not the preference that's been indoctrinated into you, but your true preferences, your true joys and loves and passions, right? Your true purpose in life. That's where you get to it. But first, you've got to clean the slate. You've got to give yourself that opportunity. So, let's do a little simple exercise. So again, breathe in through the nose. Hold. Out through the nose. And again, in through the nose. And this time, breathe into your heart as you breathe in. Hold. Out through the nose. Feel every cell in your body. That's it. Feeling good. And just continue the pattern of breathing. Breathe into your heart. Keep your hands on your heart if you can. And I want you to think of a niggle, like I did here, the problem. A little problem, a little prejudice. Prejudice is probably a bit far, but you know, a little preference that you have that's, it's not something that's serving you, right? You have this preference to go on Netflix 10 hours a day, or whatever it is, right? And you think, that's a preference I could do without, all right? Don't go crazy, don't try and pick one that's a real big trigger for you. Just start simple and then build up on this. It's all about practice, all right? Again, breathe in through the nose, out through the nose. So let's calm yourself down, that's it. And then think of something, little niggle of some description. And now you say in your mind's eye, delete. Delete all the crap that this has over you. De-story. Take away that story, let it drop, let it go. Decreate. You created this in your mind, unconsciously. Now decreate it and let it disappear into all time, space, consciousness, out into the universe. Do this with as many things as you can think of, and keep doing it, and keep wiping your board clean, wiping that mind clean, wiping the shit out of your life so that you can be you. You can be comfortable in your own skin, and you can be the true self that you deserve to be. Practice, practice, practice. We're going to wrap this up on the next video, and I'm going to give you a whole exercise routine that you can use in your daily life that really will I was going to say make a difference. It will change your life forever. You know, there's just something simple like that, okay? Until then, you take care. Meow.